Little update video. Here's the sort of the most updated version of the rivet lock book. They're gonna all vary a lot because I like to play around with designs, and so some are gonna have different points, different heights. I like this length. This is not an original rivet lock book medium. This is like sort of middle transition from early to late. So this is like in the serial number 30s. And it's very pretty. I like it a lot. And I haven't done this to the later ones just yet. But it's quite nice. And the lock is good. So what I did is I basically added shoulders to the existing rivet lock book designs, and with the latest model I added a piece of metal shoulder there, which is nice because you can fit your fingers there, your thumb back there. When you're carving, you can actually, that little extra bit of metal there actually helps a lot, add some comfort for carving, and the overall choke is good. So, and I favor spring steel over everything else. Spring steel is nice because it doesn't shatter, it's not brittle. You can basically bend it into a knot if it's properly heat treated. And for example, it's you can shave your beard with this, with steel, and carve with it for 3 days and it's still hair shaving. So in terms of edge retention, is plenty. It's more than enough. And then it's super easy to sharpen. So personally, I think, if somebody were to ask me what's the best steel for knives, I would say spring steels, either stainless or carbon, up to you. I think the carbon ones are much tougher, but the thing is, a stainless steel one, if you drop it in the forest, you're, in a park, it'll be there, a year later, just sitting there in pretty decent condition. Carbon steel one, maybe not so much. So even though the carbon steel spring steels may be tougher and they can handle abuse in your hands, they can't handle abuse when they're not in your hands. Whereas the stainless steels, it's kind of like, the stainless spring steels, they're still pretty tough. But the toughest steel, 5160, that's been forged properly, cold forged, and just heat treated like this, it's like you don't get chips, you don't get fractures, you don't get, when you bend, if you use it like a crowbar, it bends, it doesn't shatter, it doesn't chip, which is awesome. And on this particular one, so I've done smaller rivet locks before, but on this one I did it again. So I used to do it in the first 20 of the rivet lock book or smalls. I made like 200 of those. And but I like the smaller rivet lock, I think, a lot. It feels a little bit cleaner in the taking in and out. And then I don't like putting anything to push with the thumb from here because it just obstructs everything. You can't slide it in your pocket. It just snags onto things. And then if you look at the front here, one of the nice things with this kind of habaki style, guard style washer thing that I have here, it's as you can see, it's like it's a ring. It's been fitted over and then peened into place. There's a couple peens in there. And it covers the mouth of the sheath, so if you're crawling through mud, you have a lot less, almost nothing that kind of falls into the top of the sheath, kind of like a regular guard does. That's the nice thing with having a sort of a protrusion there between the sheath and then again, here you can see just one of the benefits of the rivet lock book was everything is very streamlined. The sheath doesn't need the handle to be present in order to activate or work. So what that means is that it doesn't take up a ton of space. The sheath is the same dimensions as the knife now. Here is another one. This is the rivet lock book medium. This is number 30. This one was number 31. Actually, I might have done those numbers twice now. So this particular one is with the saw. Now, of course, the sort of main downsides to that saw is that it's gonna eat away at the sheath a little bit. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do there, but overall, feels great in the hand. I like this style. Yeah, let's get this gunk off the. It's very cool. I like this style a lot, and the saw is neat. I'm not sure if I already made a video on this, but you can see here how the saws work, where it's a double. It cuts both directions. So really, what it is just you have like a tower every ½ centimeter, and then every other tower is sharpened like this, so the tips are exposed on each side. Yeah, and I don't really know how I'm gonna make sheaths for this that don't sort of wear away. Well, the trick is just is really like this was custom. I don't really intend to do 1,000 of these. So I'm just gonna see with the customer. I mean, I'll replace his sheaths and stuff if anything happens, if the spine cuts through. But it's really right now in sort of like an experimental stage, because I don't even know. I've done a lot of testing with the saw and it's fine. It does need a little technique. Well, let's see if I have a piece of wood. I have a box full of these, but I can't really show, but it does cut a little bit. Oh, come on. There's always some kind of glare. It does cut a little bit. I got some pretty nasty cuts on my thumb from trying to make this sheath work. But yeah, overall, I like the shape of just the rivet lock bulka design. I really like this addition here. I think it just makes it look more handmade. It also feels better in the hand. The shape of the handle is good, but I still need to play around with it, because this is really difficult to actually wrap a power cord handle on. The way the spine here curves, I need to figure something else out, because it's just a bit too difficult. I think the solution really, the thing with power cord is that it basically, what it likes the most is just a tapered, flat, straight handle. That's basically what it likes the most. So, but it's still possible. So this one came out really nicely, and between these two, I think I like the small rivet a lot more, and then I like this larger washer here definitely a lot more, because you do feel it when you're carving. You do feel the difference. That extra piece of metal right there, it actually gives you more space for your palm to sit on, so the spine doesn't actually dig into your hand when you're carving, which is nice. When you think about carving knives, they have pretty large handles. They don't have like exposed spines. You see a lot of guys, they make, EDC knives. I've done this a couple times. They make EDC knives or bulkos or whatever, where the scale fits within the dimensions of the tang, so the tang is exposed on the whole outside. Good luck carving any wood with that. It is painful. It's painful. It digs right into your palm. So it's like, it basically doesn't even matter that you have scales on there. The scales are just aesthetic. The power cord is really, for me, it's the best. I like it a lot. And then other reasons why I like the power cord is that it doesn't make the handle too stiff. You have a full tang. It's like a full tang with no holes. So it's very, very strong in terms of the steel. And then it's very easy to change. It's very easy to maintain, in the sense that, you can always redo the power cord wrap. There's offers a lot of grip when it's wet. It's also slightly cushiony, which is nice. So if you're doing if you're carving a lot and you want to, and so forth, you're resting your hand on something that's actually relatively soft, which is nice. It's also plastic, it's nylon, so it's very easy to clean with a brush and soap. You got dishwasher soap and a thick brush, and you can just brush it all out. You get a lot of, and then of course, on top of all that, for me, I can sit here and actually make all the handles, and it's consistent. It's very consistent work. All the handles are consistent. All the work is consistent. There's no dust. There's no failures. And if there is, it's so rare for me to have like a failure when making a wrapped handle compared to like full tangs. Especially full tangs, it's very easy to fail what you're doing. And then another problem is, for me, for example, with full tang scales, is that I mostly have wood, right? And even stabilized wood. And that's not really materials that you want to have on a full tang, unless it's a kitchen knife, A full tang machete with wooden scales, those scales are going to break off really quickly. Same with any Bowie, unless you have a ring at the front. But when it comes to full tangs and scales, you want to use something like micarta or something like that. You're not really, this is much stronger than using wood on a full tang. So if I'm going to make full tang knives, I think this is just overall better for me, especially. And I don't have any problems with it. I carry it all the time. I understand that in the knife making, in the knife consumer world, the paracord handle is not always seen as sort of the most appealing. But it keeps the price down, So, and it's also overall just really, really strong. You're not gonna see any wood splitting on this handle. This is gonna stay like this. And then you're not creating, if you're actually using it very roughly and you're applying a lot of force. I don't know if you watch Joe X videos, but if you have like a really stiff handle on top of the tang and you bend that knife, that bending force is all of it that's from the handle. The handle is stiff. It transitions right here. So, the nice thing with the paracord is you're not creating too much stiffness in the tang if you're concerned about basically trying to break the knife and applying a lot of force. That tang it'll bend as well with the whole profile of the blade. So you're much less likely to break the entire knife when you have this type of construction. And the way I look at knives is, especially with these rivet lock puukko's, is that the whole point of them is, strength, longevity, that it's like super, super mega tough and long lasting, that it won't break or snap. Those are the most important values, I think. And that's especially the case. When you're talking about like infantry, guerrilla, military guys. If you look at the edges on their knives, they're all shit because they use those knives for opening ammo boxes and digging holes and stuff like that. So they're not always so concerned about keeping the freshest edge on there. And of course, if you have like really brittle steels, like these super steels and these super alloy stainless steels and these very high hardness, these super steels like CPM3 and whatnot and Magna Cut, and they just use it like it's a toy, like it's a crowbar, and then just digging it in the earth and stuff like that. You're much more likely to get the blade to shatter because each one of those kinks in the edge, they're never going to be able to sharpen it. It's much easier to sharpen and strop this steel. So that's why I think, honestly, for me, what I've realized with 20 years of testing is that spring steel is the best overall knife steel. It's the best knife steel for Bowies, for EDCs, for these kind of knives. I think the really small EDC knives, they can sort of get away with super high-end steels. But even folding knives, I just think overall every knife design, nearly everything is generally going to be better off with a spring steel like 5160, because you can, if it bends, it won't shatter, you know, and you can bend it straight again. You can bend it back, and it's always sharp. It's very easy to strop. So, and then you don't have to worry so much about it, you know. You don't have to worry at all about it. And of course, AEBL is a stainless spring steel, so some people might prefer that, of course. But I don't know. I'm not sure if AEBL. I'm not sure if those stainless steels are ever those stainless spring steels. I don't think they're ever as strong as the carbon spring steels. I'm not really, from what I've seen with, you know, abuse videos and testing and stuff like that, it seems like stainless steels are usually a bit more brittle. They shatter and break more easily. But then you can, of course, like I said, you can, you know, if you drop it outside in the forest, it'll be there in a year or two, and generally in pretty decent condition. You know, when I'm at the junkyard, you can find Mora knives at the bottom of all this junk, and you find like a stainless steel Mora. It's basically in perfect condition. It's still got an edge, and it's like, whoa, this has been here for years, and it's just under this huge pile of mess. So stainless does have its virtues. I think this is like a really, really cool concept. It's a really, really cool knife, but it is not easy to make a sheath for this. It really isn't. Because it's just a matter of time before it eats its way through the spine of the sheath. So what I was thinking is, I would then, when it comes back, when, you know, if it ever comes back for a rehaul or a new sheath, what I would do is I would insert a piece of wood down the entire length of the spine, something to eat into, basically. So every time you pull the knife in and out, it's not eating the plastic, it's eating like a shim, a wood shim that's along the spine. I think that could work quite well. And it would be interesting to see what it looks like if you have a little piece of wood sticking, you know, right there. I don't know. But overall, even with this smaller this guard thing, it covers the top of the sheath pretty well. So again, very narrow overall profile. And here you can see with the knots, right? They stick out a little bit, so you got a bit of a pommel going on. See that? So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's two knives next to each other. I've always liked that Coyote Brown. I think it's fucking sick. Both of these are sold. They're 120 each. That's, yeah, where it's at. And they're both forged from this Japanese, German, modern spring steel. And this video is of me doing 90-degree plus bend tests with the rivet lock book along on my channel. We've got the rivet lock book along in a vise, and we just bend it all the way down, like over 90 degrees, like 100 and something. And we bend it back the other way, and we do that a few times and it doesn't break. And for fun, I straightened it out with a hammer and I gave it to a friend. It's completely straight, and he uses it all day, every day on his farm, chopping, you know, processing plants and stuff. So I have yet to see anything wrong with it. There's no splitting, and he's abusing the crap out of it, batoning and everything. So it's pretty neat. So that's the virtue of these spring steels. And he hasn't had to sharpen it either. It's still sharp. It's still razor sharp. So, you know. But I have yet to make more rivet lock bolt go-longs, because I'm still trying to figure out what to do with this pommel. And I think the solution is to actually go straight without this curve here. Just go straight and then down and then up And, I might even consider having an exposed steel pommel. Because, what if you want to hammer the back end, or something. I once made one of these rivet lock bolt gauze as a chisel. So it had a chisel grind flat on the front, and then it had a chisel grind here. And the rivet was only on one side. And I had the exposed pommel, so you could actually use it like a chisel. That was pretty cool. So, but yeah, there it is, guys. I'll be making more of these. They're only going to get better. But if you guys have any suggestions on what I could do for the sheath to improve the design so that the saw doesn't, eat its way all the way through, and of course any other suggestions for anything else, and just leave them in the comment section. And that's the rivet lock bulk medium right there. So I'll see you guys later. And if you want to support my channel and you want to support my work, you can buy yourself one of these scalpels from my website at hotmetalknives.com.